Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Acts chapter 8, we read about the Ethiopian eunuch. And this is a person who becomes for us a great example in the many activities that he is engaged in the text. He had gone up to Jerusalem to worship. He was coming back down to Ethiopia to Candace, the queen of Ethiopia, who he was working for. And as he's going down, he's reading the scroll of Isaiah. He doesn't completely understand what he's reading, but he gets some help from Philip, who meets him in the chariot. He learns about Christ, and then he's baptized. And these things that led up to his conversion are things that we ought to put into place in our everyday life. For one, he was a man of worship. He'd gone up to Jerusalem to worship the Lord. And we ought to be a person and people of worship, worshiping the Lord. That's what it all starts off with us humbling our hearts before God, revering his name, and putting ourselves in a posture of worship before God, but also getting engaged in the Word. I really like the fact that as he's going down in his chariot, going down to Ethiopia, he's actually reading God's Word, probably very similar to what we do as we engage in God's Word each and every day, reading God's Word, whether it's at our home or maybe it's in our parked in our car somewhere, or whatever the case may be, listening to it on the radio or on audio. This is a man who is engaging in God's Word, and that's something, of course, that we should be engaged in as well. But he's also a man who sought understanding in God's Word, not just to read it just for the sake of reading it and checking it off the list. He wanted to understand. And so he made good on the opportunity of asking Philip to explain it to him. And we should do that as well, as we come across passages perhaps that we don't understand, that are difficult, to get help in understanding those things, and going to reputable resources, people who can give us good understanding, and try to study these things out and get them straightened out in our minds. But also, he was a man who responded to God's Word. After hearing the message of Jesus Christ, he says, hey, what hinders me to be baptized? And he ends up responding to what he heard and being baptized. And we should be people who respond to God's Word, that we don't just read God's Word, we don't just understand God's Word, but that God's Word actually propels us into action to respond to what we have heard and what we have understood. And so this Ethiopian eunuch gives us a great example. He's a man who worshiped God. He was a man who was in the Word. He was a man who sought understanding in God's Word, but also he was a man who obeyed God's Word. And may we all be like that as well. So these are some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.